Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Fearless Generations with Terry Singer and Kelly Fox.
Hello, and welcome to Fearless Generations, 12 Steps to Freedom. I am Kelly Fox, and we are here doing Step 6, Present Moment, and our focus tonight is focus. We're excited to get started, so let me bring on my beautiful co-host, Terry Sayre. How are you doing tonight, Terry?
I'm doing fine. Waiting for the rain to start and all of these good things that we're having around here in California. Yes,
good things. Don't really like the rain, but it's good for us, so we will appreciate it. I am super excited to bring on our guest tonight. She coached me several times with all of my kiddos, and I greatly appreciate her. So please, everyone, welcome Elisabeth Stitt.
Yay!
Good evening. Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited.
We are so excited to have you. So, Elisabeth, remind the audience, what is it that you get to do and who is it that you get to serve?
Ooh, I get the best job of all. I support parents in feeling more confident and more clear by giving them the skills that they need to create more harmony at home and more connection in their relationships with their kids.
Very important job.
Very fun job.
We lost it. Yeah, very important job. I think that the core of who we are is what we get from our parents or what we don't get from our parents. And I think that the relationships we have with our parents are super important. And so if we can have someone to support us in having better relationships with our kids and our kids having better relationships with us, that is a very important job to have.
Thank you. I obviously feel like it's one of the most important jobs to do, which is why I do it. And I've always felt, I mean, it's so much easier to get things right to begin with rather than to go back and to correct things, right? So I think of it, and this is perhaps, maybe I'm not aiming enough, but like my goal for parents is to prevent barnacles from sticking to their kids. It's not that we're not going to make mistakes. It's not that we're not going to have rough patches. It's not that things aren't going to be messy along the way. But if we come back and are present and listen and talk things through, then the barnacles won't stick. Like, stuff will happen, but it won't be stuff that our kids carry into adulthood.
Fingers crossed, man. That is like the one thing that you, like your number one goal as a parent, to not mess up your kids. So that's definitely a goal of mine, but I'm pretty sure they're going to have to go to therapy. But seriously, I think that all people really need therapy. Some people are just better at hiding it. But we're talking tonight about focus, and I know that you have a really great tool that you want to share with us. But first, what does focus mean, and what does it mean to you, and how do you support your clients in creating that focus, energy, or attention, or wherever you want to go with that?
Okay, so this is interesting because I had in my mind that we were talking about being present, And of course,
Mm-hmm.
it's related, right? That one of the ways in which you are present is in bringing your focus to your parenting, to your child. And truly, that presence and that focus is one of the biggest gifts that we give our children, because a lot of times we're going to do our best parenting when we get out of our child's way. So we stop lecturing, we stop correcting, we even stop teaching, and we just be witness to our child and to the person that they're becoming and to the choices they're making. And it doesn't mean that we're not there if they need us, but maybe it means that we are quietly, focusedly present in case they need us, but not jumping in before them. That makes sense.
Yeah. I like that. My kids definitely put me in the back seat of their lives. They're very determined children to do what it is they want and believe and think what they want. And there's definitely a part of me that loves that about them, but then there's a part of me that's really annoying. But I do try to encourage them to, live, to be expressive of what it is they believe and really listen and ask questions as much as I can before they get annoyed with me, to know what's going on with them, what they think about this or how they're feeling about that, but that they still know, what the, I don't want to say rules are, but what the, and saying it this way is not the way I want to say it either, but the only word I can think of is expected, but that's not the word I want, because there are agreements that we've made.
Okay, but it's okay for parents to have expectations. And it's great when we work as a family together to work out those expectations, and then we come to agreement about what the expectations are. But especially with our little kids, it's super important we have expectations. And I feel like if we've done a lot of listening and have been really present, then some of what our expectations are for our older kids is holding a space of possibility and holding a space of not a definition of who you need to be, but still some sort of expectation of maybe how you're going to show up in the world. Not by the time they're entering young adulthood, because by that time they should really be steering their own ships, being the captain of their own ships. But as we think of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly, right? The sort of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years when they're in that transformation, they're making that metamorphosis. We can, I think, really hold both spaces, Kelly. So both the space of being present and focused in the moment, and that really just means a ton of active listening, and also a good dose of faith. And at the same time, we can hold what's possible for them out. And again, I don't mean like, oh, you should be a doctor because you're really smart and that's what you should be, or because you like biology. I don't mean it in that concrete way. I just mean it in broader strokes, that you have value and there's a whole world waiting for you to express that in its fullest form. But let's come back to the focus piece and to the present piece, if we may. Because, active listening is sometimes, I think, almost treated it's almost trite, that it's like, oh, active listening. I just want to stop and shed light on it, because honestly, if you did nothing else as a parent but listen to your child and thank them for sharing, you would go so far to really, truly honoring the unique human being who they are, without getting into, without putting your foot in it, without going off on the wrong thing. And I know you've probably had the experience of talking through something out loud, and maybe at the beginning of the conversation you're confused and you're frustrated and you don't know where to turn and you're feeling all the feelings. And by the time you've talked through with somebody, you have an aha moment with the clouds clear and the sun shines through, and you're like, I know what I should do now.
Mm-hmm.
And our children have a ton of that wisdom. And so often we just jump in as parents, and we try to fix things, and we try to direct things, and we try to teach them, when actually they've been busy watching us. They've been absorbing things. They know a ton. And if we just quiet down and leave a ton of space for them to talk things through and to think things through, and to sort of radiate our warm approval and faith in their abilities to figure things out. Even little kids come up with surprising wisdom.
Oh, yeah, my kids say the craziest thing.
Yeah, that whole out of the mouth of babes thing.
Yeah. Terry, what are you thinking about right now?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the conversation. I think the words that are really sticking with me is faith, values, listening, and being present, and focusing on the relationship, the connection that you have with your children or your spouse or your parents or your siblings, is that connection that grows from respect. And I think that's a lot of our ability to connect with our kids, is that we respect them as human beings with all the same limitations and talents that we have as human beings. They're just in a smaller body and they haven't been here as long as we have. But just like you were saying, they have a lot of wisdom. They have innate capacity to learn and to observe. And, just it's been a long time since I had my children in my home. And if I was starting over again, it would be a little bit different because I've learned a lot as a human being. But I think that seeing your children is really important, and I don't think that's always easy to do. I think you have to have faith and really be committed to that connection with them. And your intention is to love them unconditionally. And your intention is to create a safe space for them to grow and to become all that they can become. And it's often frustrating and challenging. And I was a kindergarten teacher for a long time. I did a lot better job with my kindergarten students than I did with my own kids, I think sometimes, I would be so tired by the time I get home. But, yeah, I just, if I could have taken that mindset that I have with those children and been able to hold it for my own children, I think I would have probably had an easier time as a mom. But as my children are adults now, I really try to respect them. And sometimes I slip and, start getting into that teachy mode, but but I appreciate the things that I've learned as a fearless living coach about, asking my kids, and Kelly and I, because we work together so much, sometimes I'll forget to ask her, are you venting, or do you want my advice? So that I can just listen to her without, coming up with something to fix the situation or to give her my opinion. And so respecting her desire to just vent and get her feelings out and get her ideas out, and listening to her. And the more I listen and the less I talk, the more effective I am at respecting my children, my adult children. It's easy with my grandkids. I think it's great being a grandmother. I do all the right things when I'm with my grandkids. I don't know. And it's like...
right. And it's
easy
with your grandkids because you're not ultimately responsible for them.
Right. Exactly. I can send them home.
There's definitely... The challenge of parenting is like, well, I am responsible for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
mm-hmm.
If they go out and they do bad things or they show up in public as complete jerks, who else is supposed to help them? Not show up in that way. And so how we are present for the individual child and honoring the individual child, and still holding expectations and civilizing them, for lack of a better word. That's the tricky.
Yeah.
That's where the rub is. Yeah.
I think it's a real slippery slope in knowing what to say and how to say it, tone of voice, being able to keep your frustrations and expectations for them to act and be a certain way, down to just having a set of values and intentions around how you're going to act and how you're going to take up space, and that you want the same respect from them, that they'll follow suit. If you're kind, then they'll be kind. If you listen, then you want them to listen. So that's where I think the intention comes in, is that what you model is probably more powerful than any teaching words you can say to kids. It's how you model, how you can, in situations that are challenging, can stay calm, and yet sometimes you explode, and then you go back and you admit, this is what happened to me. These are the feelings I was having. That reaction wasn't what I wanted to do. I think this would have been a better reaction, and talk it through with them so that because even if they're kids, they understand that. They can understand that. They see you do that, then they're much more likely, when they have a meltdown or they just are so frustrated, they, strike out. They also have that model then of how you take a breath, you regroup, and then you talk about it. So it's really modeling to our kids the way that we intend to act, and the way we intend to respect them and honor them as individuals, as human beings, and then wanting that reciprocity. And I think we're much more likely to get that reciprocity when we're the model of that, rather than, I used to always hear, I don't know if my mother or my grandmother used to say, do as I say, not as I do. That just doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. But I heard that a lot when I was a kid.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. So the opposite of that is do as I do, and then you do what you want your kids to do in terms of values and respect and kindness and forgiveness and conversation and connection. If you do that, they're much more likely to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's at the end of the day, it's really the only way, because if there's the inconsistency, then they're not doing it out of anything innately expansive in their hearts, right? And it's because they don't want to be punished, or they're scared of you, or you've promised them something that may work in the moment, but it never works in the long run.
Yeah. It's that whole idea as a teacher as an educator, you probably went through this conversation as well. Is it nature or is it nurture? Are kids born with this, personality and this way of being angry? And there are probably sometimes, because of a neurological issue or whatever, that kids do have some of that nature, but I think nurture is what really creates that, that space to be who you were created to be, and to be that human being that feels valued and gives value back to the planet. I just always felt like every kid was a good kid if given the opportunity to be in an environment where there was nurturing and love and support. And when there wasn't that in the environment for a child, they would act out, and you could just see that they were so hungry for somebody letting them know they had value, and that no matter how they behaved, they were still a person of value. And as you nurture that concept that you have value and you're loved, then the behavior changes. And I saw that happen to so many children, that I worked with over the years.
Absolutely.
Very interesting, very interesting and complex situation, right? And being in the present moment is the only way you can make those choices as a parent. I mean, the past is the past, and you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But in this moment, you focus on that reciprocity of trust, that reciprocity of faith and nurturing and respect.
Indeed. And at our best, it's so easy to show up that way. And when we're tired and when we're stressed and when we've got a million things going, it's so hard. And, one thing I do want to say to parents is it's okay you're not going to be able to slow down and really go through the active listening process most of the time. 9 times out of 10, we're doing logistics, we're running our day, and we don't have the time to slow down. Or we can do it for a little bit, but we can't really get into that kind of Zen-like state of just being a sponge, wanting whatever you have that you want to share with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want parents to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want them to think, I can't do that. I can't stop and listen all the time. So I'm just not going to. I want them to have, give themselves grace and to have faith that if they can do it, every 9 or 10th time with their children, that will be such a balm. And their children will retain that. And they'll give, it's okay that you can't do it in every single moment. And, in my classroom, where, of course, you've got 30 other kids, as long as you have had those other moments of connection, then you can kind of do the shortcut, right? I remember a 7th grader coming in and I asked him, he came in and he was being loud, and I asked him, could you please sit down? And he's like, F you, Mrs. Stitt. And as you said, Terry, this is not, he does not want to say that to me. He so does not want to say that to me, right? He's doing the best he can.
Yeah, yeah.
And because we had enough touch points before where, I really had been able to sit down, maybe recess, and talk things through, I was able to kind of go and say, I know you're upset. And I wish I had time to listen to you. And right now I have to teach. So, your choices are to sit down and put what's going on with you aside and learn, or you can sit outside the classroom. But, I don't have time right now. And if you don't have the relationship, then you can't do the shorthand, because the shorthand isn't going to be enough to say, to have a child feel seen and heard and understood. But if you've had all those other touch points, then you can come and you can say, oh, okay, I wish I could talk to you right now, but I can't.
Oh.
And yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the great thing is that when kids have felt heard in the past, just saying that enough, they might not actually need you anymore to do all the listening. They just needed that one moment of, you love me anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even when I have been screaming F you at you, you met me with love. And I'm going to take that into my heart.
Mhm.
And I'm going to allow that to help soothe me. And, you know, when we can soothe the amygdala, that allows the prefrontal cortex to start bringing in reason and perspective and other things.
I have loved this conversation, ladies, and I wish it could go on longer, but it can't. We are out of time, and I want to give Elisabeth a little bit of time to share with the listeners where they can, what's the best way they can get a hold of her, and if you have anything coming up.
Ooh, thank you for asking. Best way to get a hold of me is probably my website. It's just my name, ElisabethStitt.com. That's Elisabeth with an S, S-T-I-T-T. And if you are a middle school parent, I would invite you to check out my Parenting Academy for moms of middle school moms and dads, for middle school moms and dads. And it's a community. It lives on Facebook. It is a paid community. Lots of learning opportunities, group coaching opportunities, lots of support.
Absolutely. Yes, go check it out. And please, Elisabeth, put links to all of that in our Facebook page and in our group. Get Fearless at Any Age with Fearless Generations, so the listeners can have a quick one-click access to you.
I will do that.
Awesome. Well, we want to thank you so much for being here, staying up late, and hanging out with us and sharing all of your goodness. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too and the work that you do so much. And of course, you're such a model, being parent and child and being friends and, you know, showing the respect for each other. It's truly inspiring. I'm sure that parents who are thinking about the relationship they have maybe with their snarky, snarly, moody middle schooler right now, teen right now, are going, and I know that Terry and Kelly, that you guys didn't have unicorns and rainbows during middle school. And
no.
The fact that you are here where you are now is so inspiring.
It's never too late.
Love
Never
it.
too late.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you all for being here with us. We want to remind you that the 12 Steps to Freedom were created by Rhonda Britton, the CEO and founder of the Fearless Living Institute. And if you would like to know more about Fearless Living, go check it out at fearlessliving.org. You can find out all fun stuff about Terry and I at fearlessgenerations.org. And you can also go there to find information about all our guest coaches that seems to be on the page. And I believe Elisabeth is one of those. So that's another place you can go, but you can also find out about all of our upcoming workshops and our group programs and everything that we do to support you to be fearless. So thank you, Terry. Thank you, Elisabeth. And until next week, everybody, be fearless.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Good night.